Black Alert. Discovery is back and just in time for Black History Month. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Anna Rose. I'm a big ass nerd, and chances are, if you're watching me, so are you. Before we get too in depth in the episode, do y'all like my hair today? I mean, I really was going for something different. I stopped off at that planet where Apollo lives, you know, the one, and he gave me this Aphrodite look. I mean, I'm into it. I'm the goddess of love too, baby. I may be from outer space, honey, but I'll come out of a clamshell in a minute. Now we are finally back from Discovery's hiatus with a new episode, so let's discuss. A lot happened in this episode, so I have my Welch's grape juice to help me get through this discussion. All right, let's get to it. This episode picks up right where we left off. Book and Tarka have taken the experimental spore drive and have flown off to God knows who and where. And the Admiral is in the HQ going off on everybody. Everybody is getting fired. Everybody is getting written up, child. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm looking for another job. After he's yelled at everybody, now it's time for President Rillick to come yell at him and to yell at Burnham. President Rillick, I really don't like her as a character, and you're not supposed to. She's basically given that Kai Wynn energy, but the only difference between her and Kai Wynn is Kai Wynn always from the jump just rubbed me completely the wrong way. And we saw very early on with Kai Wynn that she was just willing to do whatever she wanted, like blow up a school to get her way. Whereas with President Rillick, I feel like she's a little more subtle in her intentions and her methods. She's definitely a politician. She definitely uses the system to manipulate people and to get her way. But she doesn't just do outright evil things. That is definitely a distinction between her and Kai Wynn. But she's going off on Burnham. She's like, how did you not see this? Blah, blah, blah. What is going on? I don't understand. Yada, yada. And Burnham wants to go after Book, obviously. But to the president's credit, she's like, no. Like, that's not gonna happen. Admiral Vance and Burnham meet on the ship later. And he basically says, okay, well, I have to present this united front with the president in public, but I want you to collect data. And if you just so happen to run into Book, I want you to bring him in if you can. So Burnham's like, wait, what? Burnham has finally come to this point in her life over the course of the series where she is not running off half-cocked. She's not doing whatever she thinks is the right thing. No matter how justified she may feel she is in doing that thing, she has finally reined herself in and given herself some self-control. She's now a captain now. She has to act with some kind of restraint. I think it's very interesting that now that she's finally exercising some restraint, the show is putting her in situations and putting characters in her path to basically force her to do the thing that she would have been ridiculed in seasons prior for doing. I don't know if that's some like metatextual like narrative choice, but it's something that I've definitely picked up on, and that's kind of similar to real life. If you are just going off on your own, usually the system will push back on you. But if you're towing the line and doing what you're supposed to do, sometimes the system will come back and be like, hey, so remember when you did that thing? Can you do that thing again? I know you shouldn't, and no one needs to know, but so I think that's really interesting that now she's being put in this predicament where she is forced to do things against the rules, but they're somewhat sanctioned. So we're back on the ship on Discovery, and Michael, Stamets, and Saru are having a conference going over some data. And again, we get the situation where Zora chimes in, and she's like, I could do that for you, referring to Stamets. And Stamets is immediately uncomfortable, but he's trying to maintain and keep his uncomfortableness pushed down so he doesn't look like an ass when everybody else was like so willing to trust Zora right from the jump. I'm kind of in between as far as the Zora thing. if there was a computer that was sentient and had control over my well-being at the drop of a dime, if she just decided to blow me out of an airlock, beam me into space, just start shooting up Starfleet HQ whenever she felt the need, or anything crazy like that, like she just took over the ship, I would I would be concerned as well. So I totally get where Samus is coming from, and even still, even after saying, "Okay, I give in. I understand where you guys are coming from. I will give her the respect that she deserves as a sentient being," but you can't help but have those fears, and they're not easily pushed aside. So Michael and Awoshikun are in a shuttle. They are going off on their own. So the thing about this planet, and Hans's Karma Barge. Oh my god, I can't say words today. It's this hair. It's clogging up my brain cells. So the thing about this place is that you can't take weapons, you can't take any communicators, anything into this place. And so they head down there unarmed in the shuttle. Awoshikun is like, so why did you bring me? You can analyze these star charts yourself. And Michael basically tells her, I know that there was an issue of almost insubordination between you and Saru because you really wanted to prove yourself and be able to do something to help the situation, and you weren't able to. And I want to give you that opportunity to basically get in and get your hands dirty and do something about the situation. And so it was really sweet to see that Michael was being attentive to her crew and giving her a chance to actually get in on the action. Anytime we get a Woshikun in an episode where she's not just at the ops controls, it's like a breath of fresh air. This actress, she's so good in everything, and she's not a main character, obviously, but I think they should use any and every opportunity to use her more because, like we saw in this episode, she was so good. Seeing Michael and Awoshikun in all these scenes together, scenes a lot of times where they're just talking to each other and no one really else is in the scene, it really just like set off my alarms, my black alert, if you will. You don't really see this a lot. Two beautiful black women, and I mean beautiful in all senses of the word, inside and out, intelligent, just discussing whatever is going on in the scene in a sci-fi show. Usually black stories are so relegated to a very specific genre of storytelling, and it can be kind of traumatic to watch those same stories all the time. It is such a breath of fresh air that we are getting more black faces in genre stories. Black Panther really showed that there was a desire for that, that every movie or story or show that has a predominantly black cast does not need to be about racial horror or slavery or things that happened in the 60s with the civil rights. Those stories are obviously very, very powerful and need to be told, but we as black people need to be able to see ourselves in the future. We need to be able to see ourselves in any and all types of stories that everyone else is able to see themselves in, because it'll show the next generation that they are capable of so much more, that they can move past the hindrances and the obstacles that were placed in front of our culture and our people and go beyond that. This is just powerful escapism. We are going through a lot in these current times, and to see people that look like yourself just take up space on the screen, it means so much, and it's so powerful. These two women literally are Nichelle Nichols' legacy. And seeing these two beautiful black women take up space in so many scenes just together, it meant so much to me as a viewer, as a black person, because you don't see this every day on television. It is Nichelle's legacy, Nichelle Nichols, Uhura. It is her legacy in action. She was one of the first black women to be shown on TV as something else besides a maid or anything that was basically the pigeonholed role for a black person in the 60s. She was actually going to leave the show and pursue other things, Broadway and other roles, because she felt the role was not fulfilling and she felt that she could do more. And I understand that urge because I love Ahura and I love everything that she stands for. But from an acting standpoint, I could see why she would not be fulfilled because the role was not as rich as the other roles on the show. She was not one of the main characters. She was not Bones. She was not Spock. She was not Kirk. She was supporting. Um, so if it wasn't for, of all people, Martin Luther King, who urged her to remain on the show, because just her being there, existing in that space, taking up room on the bridge, showed people that there was so much more, not just black people, but people of every race, that there could be space for us, that we were not just what people told us we had to be. We were intelligent, we were beautiful, we were any and everything that we wanted to be. And this is such a powerful message. And I think that this episode came back during the middle of Black History Month for a reason. It was totally planned this way. It had to be. I don't think the producers and the writers just like arbitrarily decided that this is where the season would pick back up and when it would pick back up. I think they knew it would have this impact. I've seen so many people online, especially Twitter, saying how much this like moved them just to see them just talking in a scene together. And yes, they've taken up the same space on the bridge, but there's a slew of different characters all around them and stuff is going around. But there was a lot of just like quiet moments where they were discussing things and having a scene together and just having a real camaraderie, a sisterhood, if you will, and supporting each other. There's the moment in the fight in the ring where Owoshakun is fighting to win the money so that they can get the isolinium so Book can't get it. And she loses twice. I mean, the guy was huge. And Owoshakun is a very strong, athletic character, but this guy was huge. And she loses a second time and urges Michael, please let me just do this. I know I can do this. So Michael reluctantly, because she wants to give Owoshakun that chance that she didn't get the last time, so she allows it. She lets her have it. She supports her. And she pulls it off. And sometimes you just need that person to support you. Even though you may have stumbled and fumbled the first couple of times, having that support system to say, okay, you know what? I believe in you. It can really like change the course of things. And so she does win and they get the money, they get the latinum and they're able to basically put it up. And the only thing is that now Book was hired by Hans to find the cheater that was basically cheating in the ring and placing bets and was doing some kind of scam so that they could cheat, but he could not figure out who it was. And lo and behold, we find out that it was a changeling. And I love the fact that Discovery is really pulling in all of these DS9 aliens. Ferengi, even though Ferengi were very much invented for the next generation, they were super utilized a lot more and to great effect in DS9. So I feel like DS9 has more ownership of those aliens than the next generation. But the changelings, we haven't seen a changeling in any series, now that I think about it, since any modern series. I don't even think they've shown them on Lower Decks. So for them to show a changeling, because we never really knew what happened with the Dominion, with the changeling species after they signed the peace treaty with the Federation. So where are they? Have they just kind of gone off and done their own thing? It would seem so, because this one individual is just running around and scamming people out of their money. So I thought that was really cool. I love how they updated the changeling effect. And then it turns into like a tribble. It tries to get away. And then it turns into its like, I guess, base changeling form. And honestly, I wasn't even thinking about it until I watched it the second time. But the changeling has brown skin. And we've never seen that. And I was like, huh. Interesting. And again, I don't think that was just arbitrary. I don't think that was just some choice that they made. I think they have been making like very deliberate choices about who is on screen for this episode, who is getting a lot of airtime and dialogue, and the fact that the changeling's skin was brown when they changed to their basic form was also, I feel, very deliberate. And I think it's really ridiculous if people are going to get upset about that because, again, it's a changeling. They can change their form to anything. So if you're mad about the fact that the changeling has brown skin, get over it. I'm here to tell you that one, it's make believe, and I'm here to tell you that they can change into literally anything. You saw this changing literally go from some gray alien with five or more eyeballs to some random white guy in a cloak, and then to its basic form. No, to a tribble, and then to its basic form, and it just so happened to present as brown. Now, let's go back to disco for a little bit. And we see Hugh is cleaning furiously their apartment, their quarters, and Paul Stamets comes in and sees him. And he's like, "Why are you cleaning? The ship does it for us." And then we see Hugh do something very much out of character, so you know he's stressed. He literally yells at the dot, and also in turn Zora, because Zora basically inhabits all of the dots on the ship. And I'm like, Hugh, please be careful. This robot in this computer on the ship is literally sentient and she's emotional, okay? She already said, I don't want y'all to go find species 10C because I don't want you to die. So the fact that she's willing to withhold information just because she has feelings about it, Hugh, please don't be yelling at the robots. The robot might kill you. Um, so I thought that was really funny, but also kind of like, oh my god, like I've never seen him yell, so it was a little unnerving. But as we see, they have really great on-screen chemistry. They really create this air of realism that they really have had this relationship for so long, and the way that Stamets is able to talk him down and make him feel reassured is so real and very real to relationships. Sometimes your partner is the only one who can really reassure you that things are going to be okay. And that's exactly what Paul Stamets does for Hugh. Hugh is very much caught up in the fact that he feels like there should have been something else that he could have done to prevent whatever is going on with Book. If he would have just said the right thing or given him better advice or what have you, maybe he wouldn't have gone off and taken matters into his own hands. But as Paul tells him, that is out of your hands. Just because you are a therapist to someone does not mean that you can predict their actions or stop them from making certain choices. Their choices are all theirs. And it shows that sometimes the counselor needs counseling and they need a break. And that is something that we've been seeing with Hugh, is that he is so immersed in his work, and that has basically become his entire life. And Kovic has told him that, like, you need to find an outlet because you're going to go crazy. And I think we're starting to see the cracks form on Hugh. And if he doesn't find some kind of outward release because of all of the things that has happened in his past, like coming back from the dead and things like that, um, I think he might have a breakdown. I think we saw a little bit of that about to happen before Paul was able to kind of like keep the lid on that. We have the big scene of the show, and it is the poker scene. So apparently, Book is really great at, I think it's called Lenosian or Lenonian poker. And we see him go up against Michael and these two Emerald Chain people because they want to get money to basically become the next Osira. So the four of them are playing poker. Hans is watching over, and we really get to see Michael's other side of her personality. She starts acting really goofy and over the top, and it was a delight to see like something other than like stoic or serious or Um, Crisis Michael, it was really refreshing to see her just have fun and cut loose. And Sonequa does those scenes effortlessly. And it also just gives another dimension to the character. We also see them playing the poker in tandem and basically bouncing off of each other to like get these other two out. And eventually they do. Then we see that they're going up against each other. And Michael reiterates that, she tells him earlier in the episode that if it comes down to it, she'll stop him if she has to. She urges him to stop because she tells him that you're going to burn every bridge that you have. And he responds with, even the bridge between me and you. And she pauses, and you can literally see the heartbreak on her face. And again, this is another scene where there is just, for the most part, two people of color on the screen. And to see this in sci-fi, I know I've said this already, but it is just amazing. And such a high profile show like Star Trek, to see this. I mean, Star Trek has always had people of color in it and always made that a point. But these are the main characters. These are the main actors. You have your captain who's a black woman and her partner, and this is a very complicated story. I love that she's getting to play. We're getting to see this complicated story that is atypical of what we usually see between two black actors. Tarka has always been this character since he's been on the show that was very much in control of every interaction that he was placed in. He's very arrogant. He is the cliche, arrogant, mad scientist who thinks he's smarter than everyone in the room. And that's probably because he is. But we finally see one person kind of get under his skin, and it was someone that I didn't think would ever be able to do that. I didn't think they would ever be in a scene together because Awoshakun has, one, not really been in this season a whole lot, but two, she usually is relegated to the bridge. So to see her have a conversation with him and kind of like get him off kilter by asking him all these questions, these personal questions. So, what are you doing this for? Did you lose someone? I know what it is to lose someone. Blah, 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 blah. And he's so thrown off and taken aback that he literally tells her, like, go stand over there. You making me uncomfortable. You making me, like, feel feelings. And Tarka is definitely one of those people that probably pushes everything down to keep his facade up. And Awoshakun is able to break through that. She sees through that crap. Book then wins the poker match, and Michael's face is cracked. Like shattered glass. The worst thing imaginable has now happened. Book has now won the game and has the money and the means to get the isolinium for the weapon that they want to use against unknown species 10C. They're back at HQ, and Rillick is going in on them again, and she's like, so not only did you go against what I said, you found a little loophole because you went and found these star charts, blah, 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 and you had him right there, and you didn't do anything to drag his ass back here. And I understand where she was coming from because that's what I said. But then I remembered that she literally had no weapons. She had no weapons. She had no anything, no communication. What was she gonna do? Beat his ass to the ground? It would have been a fight between her, Awoshakun, Book, and Tarka. I mean, I think they probably could have took Tarka, and they would have just had to deal with Book. But I don't think Michael was in the right headspace to do that at that moment. But she did something that would help them in the long run, and she placed a tracker on the isolinium. So now they were able to track Book's ship up to 2 sectors, and they get back. She shows them that they're here, and we can basically jump in on them at any moment in time. So they start planning. They're like, we gotta get planning and blah 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 blah. But there's another little tidbit that gets revealed before the episode ends, and it is that there is this large Faraday cage is what Stamets calls it, and it is basically powered by an immense amount of energy. And it's large enough for like a host star and maybe two orbiting bodies to fit inside. And they are like, what could possibly power this? And so they notice by process of elimination that the DMA, once it goes through an area and tears up everything, it is taking all of the boronite out of that spatial region and mining it essentially. And basically, boronite can be used to power this like hyperfield to keep it sustained. So I have so many questions. What is inside of this hyperfield? I've heard that people believe that this is the interdimensional aliens from Enterprise that basically got the Xindi all worked up to attack Earth. And you remember when they were the sphere builders, that's what they were called. The sphere builders basically created the spheres to basically manipulate regions of space so that they could then come in and inhabit those regions of space because normal space was inhospitable to them. I have no clue. I like to hear your thoughts down in the comments, so please let me know what you think species 10C is. Do you think it's something that we have seen or heard about, maybe in just a line of dialogue like the Iconians? I hope that it is as fulfilling as the rest of the season has been prior. I hope that we get a satisfying conclusion to all of this mystery. I would just like to leave you guys with the story of Nichelle Nichols recounting her interactions with Dr. Martin Luther King and her experiences being urged by him to stay on Star Trek.
He said, you cannot. You cannot. And I felt like that little boy Willis. What you talking about, Dr. King? But you know I didn't say that, no. But I was taken aback, and I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. He said, for the first time on television, we will be seen as we should be seen every day, as intelligent, quality, beautiful people who can sing, dance, but who can go into space, who can be lawyers, who can be teachers, who can be professors, who are in this day, and yet you don't see it on television until now. And he went on, so many of the things, perhaps some of the things he said, but I could say nothing. I just stood there, realizing every word that he was saying was the truth. And he said, if you leave, Nichelle, Gene Roddenberry has opened a door for the world to see us. If you leave, that door can be closed because, you see, your role is not a black role, and it's not a female role. He can fill it with anything, including an alien. And at that moment, the world tilted for me, and my life's never been the same since, and I've never looked back. I've never regretted it, because I understood the universe had somehow, that universal mind had somehow put me there. And we have choices. Are we going to walk down this road, or are we going to walk down the other? And it was the right road for me.